The hum of the office lights had a pulse of its own, steady and low, like a warning I couldn't name. My phone buzzed every few seconds. Emails, reminders, group chats, blinking in digital panic, each one demanding to be seen, answered, solved. I'd learned to live inside that static, to mistake motion for meaning. My mind never stopped. It circled every decision until clarity blurred into noise. I told myself it was discipline, but it was fear dressed as preparation. When the list of promotions came through, my name wasn't there. The official note called it a narrow decision, but the subtext was sharper. You hesitate. I'd built systems, forecasts, contingency plans. I had files labeled, color-coded, airtight. Yet when the moment asked for presence, I'd overthought myself into invisibility. The noise had drowned out my own voice. That night, I turned my phone face down. The room didn't grow quieter, it grew honest. For the first time, I could hear what the silence was trying to say, and it wasn't kind. But somewhere beneath the hum, I felt the faintest outline of control returning, waiting to be claimed. Morning arrived like an apology I didn't ask for. The city outside was loud as ever. Horns, heels, half-heard conversations. But inside my apartment, everything finally held still. My mind, though, refused to follow. Every mistake replayed in high definition. The pause before I spoke in that meeting, the file I triple-checked, while others simply decided. I realized then that my overthinking wasn't diligence. It was defense. A prison disguised as professionalism. I'd mistaken control for safety, and the bars were built from my own perfectionism. I wanted to fight it, to drown the noise in more effort. But something softer interrupted. What if silence wasn't surrender, but precision? The thought startled me, as if the room itself had answered back. Maybe revenge on overthinking wasn't to win louder, but to move quieter, sharper, smaller. I thought of my boss, calm under pressure, decisive even when wrong. He hadn't stolen my moment, he'd claimed his. And for the first time, I didn't resent him. I studied with him. What happens, I wondered, when silence becomes my strategy? The question didn't bring peace, but it opened a door I hadn't known existed. The air inside it felt dangerous and free. The habit had roots deeper than I wanted to admit. For years, I'd rewritten the same emails until midnight, adjusting commas like they were locks holding the door shut. I replayed old conversations in my head, the ones where I'd said too little or too carefully, and I told myself next time I'd get it right. But next time always came wrapped in hesitation. Action frightened me more than failure ever could. I wanted to sound certain before I even spoke. My silence became its own language. Muted notifications, headphones blocking a world I couldn't control. I called it focus, but it was to avoid wearing a clean disguise. 6 months earlier, I'd started therapy. The worksheet sat half-finished on my desk beside a mindfulness app I downloaded, opened, and never used again. Journaling helped for a week, until the words started judging me too. One afternoon, I realized I'd postponed a dinner that never got rescheduled. The man I'd been seeing stopped asking. He said my pauses felt like walls. He wasn't wrong. I'd delayed decisions, conversations, even joy, waiting for the perfect timing that never arrived. Silence had once protected me. Now it was proof of everything I'd lost by staying quiet too long. The morning began without urgency. No alarms blaring, no screens lighting up the room, just the quiet drip of the coffee maker and a sky the color of restraint. My phone lay face down on the counter, for once not calling the shots. The air felt uncomfortably empty, but instead of rushing to fill it, I listened. Beneath the stillness, a single truth settled in. Maybe the answer wasn't doing more, but doing less, with intention. So I made a list, not of tasks but of pauses. A 30-day plan to retrain my mind through 5 quiet rituals. Walk, write, breathe, delay, decide. 10 minutes of movement before screens. 1 page of unedited thoughts each night. 3 deep breaths before any reply. A deliberate pause before every yes. And 1 decision each day made from calm, not fear. I called it my audit of noise. To keep myself honest, I built a small log, sleep hours, stress levels, and check marks for each ritual kept. No apps, no metrics, just pen and paper on the fridge door. Small, steady proof that silence could be structure. If you're listening, try 1 silence ritual this week. See which thought refuses to leave you alone. It's usually the one worth hearing. Progress didn't look dramatic, it looked quiet. Week by week, the clutter thinned. I started with the small wars, muted 3 group chats that drained more than they gave, set no call blocks on my calendar from 6 to 8 each morning. unsubscribed from the newsletters I never read. I even printed the receipts for each canceled subscription and pinned them to a corkboard beside my desk, a small museum of what I no longer owed attention to. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was orderly. By week 4, my journal had become a record of calm data. Average sleep, 7 hours. Resting heart rate, down 8 beats per minute. Notes on mornings when thoughts arrived slower, cleaner, like they'd learned to wait their turn. I kept a single line across the top of each page. Quiet is a choice, not a reward. The more space I cleared, the more authority I felt inside it. Then came the pattern break. An email from my boss. Subject line, your perspective. Short, direct, unexpected. He wanted input on a new client project, the kind of opportunity that once made me spiral into over-preparation. This time, I let the message sit. I didn't rush to prove readiness. 8 weeks into my experiment, the metrics said what words couldn't. Stress levels down, clarity up, noise contained. Stillness had stopped being a refuge. It had become a system. I began to see how silence, when sharpened, could cut through chaos cleaner than confrontation ever could. Quiet wasn't absent anymore. It was precision. It was my weapon, finally honed. The conference room buzzed with overlapping voices, everyone sprinting to be heard. Charts flickered on the screen, words stacked on words until meaning thinned. I sat back, hands steady on the table, listening. Not waiting for my turn, listening. The difference was small but seismic. When a question landed in the air, I didn't rush to claim it. I let the silence stretch, uncomfortable for them but clarifying for me. It was remarkable how truth revealed itself when noise ran out of places to hide. Someone finally asked for my input. I spoke slowly, one sentence at a time, naming what mattered and leaving out what didn't. The room recalibrated. People leaned in. For the first time, my restraint carried more weight than their insistence. Contrast filled the air, verbal dominance fading under quiet authority. Across the table, my boss watched, chin resting on his hand. When the meeting ended, he lingered by the door and asked, almost amused, "When did you get so steady?" I smiled, because I didn't owe him an answer yet. Walking back to my desk, I felt the question settle beneath my ribs. Was silence the beginning of leadership, or just another form of power learning how to speak differently? He called me into his office late on a Friday, when the rest of the floor had already emptied into weekend freedom. The blinds were half drawn, stripes of light cutting across the desk like quiet boundaries. His tone was steady but searching. "You've been different," he said. "Quieter. The team feels like you've pulled back. Are you disengaged?" For a moment, I almost smiled. Perception versus truth. It always starts there. I placed a folder on the desk, deliberate and calm. Inside, the last quarter's performance report, project deliverables, email timestamps. Every metric showed progress. Deadlines met, errors down, client satisfaction up. The numbers spoke before I did. "I haven't withdrawn," I said finally. "I've removed the noise. There's a difference between avoiding work and avoiding distraction." I let the silence settle, clean and unhurried. "You once told me decisiveness matters more than detail." I decided to test that. He looked over the data again, slower this time. Something shifted in his face, doubt giving way to comprehension, then respect. "You've been running this quietly," he said. "Didn't think quiet could lead." "It doesn't always," I answered, rising, "but it does when the work's loud enough to speak for itself." When I left the office, the air felt different, lighter, but edged. The noise had finally recognized the sound of precision. After that conversation, the air around my work shifted, less defensive, more deliberate. For the first time in months, I wasn't reacting, I was arranging. My days took on rhythm instead of resistance. I blocked my mornings for silence. No meetings, no scrolling, just pen, paper, and coffee cooling beside intention. Afternoons followed structure. 2 focused hours, 1 walk, 1 pause. The phone stayed on Do Not Disturb until noon, and the world kept spinning without me in it. The quiet began paying its own dividends. With fewer impulse buys, no late-night orders to soothe stress, no subscriptions I'd forgotten to cancel, my bank app reflected what clarity costs and what clutter drains. Even my calendar looked cleaner, like a room that finally remembered its purpose. There was calm pride in every boundary kept, not from proving others wrong, but from proving I could trust myself to hold the line. If noise is a tax on attention, I'd finally stopped paying it. What's one noise you'll mute tonight? Not forever, just long enough to remember who you are without it. Silence used to scare me. It felt like punishment, an empty space where approval used to live. But now, It's the foundation I build from. What began as absence has become presence, the steady hum beneath every decision. The noise that once filled my head, doubts, over-explanations, rehearsed apologies, has faded into something clean, deliberate, not peace as escape, but peace as structure. Months after that meeting, my boss asked if I'd lead a new mentorship program for junior staff. I said yes, but on my own terms. Weekly sessions built around one idea: think less, move more. We talk about clarity, not control. Strategy, not noise. I teach them what silence taught me, that restraint isn't weakness, it's accuracy. Some laugh when I tell them I schedule my stillness the same way I schedule deadlines. They stop laughing when they see how much I finish without frenzy. Outside work, I started writing short essays about productivity, but really about presence. People began reaching out, strangers, saying the stories sounded like their own. The quiet keeps spreading, one decision, one breath, one uncluttered hour at a time. I don't chase balance anymore. I design it. I no longer beg the world to calm down. I build the calm, hold it, and teach it forward. Silence used to mean I'd lost my voice. Now it means I'm choosing when to use it. I stopped chasing peace and became it.